know about you, but 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim was a game I could not stop hearing about, and that's what got me to play it, because nobody would shut the hell up about it. And now after playing it, I see why. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is a unique experience. I didn't quite know what to expect going in, as it's one of those games, the less you know, the better it is. An emergency broadcast kicks off as unidentified massive objects, or Kaiju, have come to the city. A girl summons a sentinel, and just like that, you're thrusted into your first battle. The beginning is a lot of play a couple characters' prologues, then battle. Prologues, then battle. It's not until you unlock all the starting characters' prologues do you gain control of the pacing of the game. As the game implies, there are 13 character stories to go through. You'll have a handful of characters to start, and by progressing their story, you'll unlock new characters. Essentially, how this plays out is 13 stories detail the events that lead up to the current day battles with the Kaiju. Mentioned before, you'll get the most out of this game the less you know about it, so I'll keep character descriptions very basic. Juro Kurabe, a sci-fi movie lover who is confused by his identity. Iori Fuyasaka, a cute schoolgirl who finds herself in the middle of a conspiracy. A Sekigahara, a wanted man with amnesia. Keitaro Miura, a young military man. Megumi Yakushiji agrees to a contract to restore her lover's memories. Natsuno Minami, a bubbly, sporty girl who discovers a robot. Nenji Ogata, a punk who's stuck in his own head. Renya Goto, a brilliant albeit distant young man who will do whatever it takes. Ryoko Shinonome, a girl with a constant headache fumbling her way through life to find the truth. Shu Amaguchi, has problems with his TV keeping him up at night. Takatoshi Hijiyama, a military man trying to make sense of his predicament. Tomi Kisaragi, a hip teen trying to understand the ways of today. And Yuki Takamiya, a certified badass who's swept up by agents. My favorite character routes are Shu Amaguchi. He has the most understandable response to what's happening. I enjoy a character with common sense. Ryoko Shinonome, she felt different from everyone else due to her constant headaches. My least favorite is Natsuno Minami. Her story didn't really get me excited to uncover more. She's a cute character, just lacking an intriguing story. And Renya Goto. While my favorite archetype, stern, straightforward, calm, cool, collected, know-it-all, his story felt like straight recollections pertaining to one specific thing versus help, support, and piece together other characters' stories. It's not that it didn't connect, I just believe other arcs did it better. Also, gotta give a shout out to my boy Okino. I love him more than anybody, but alas, he isn't playable. Now, each story tends to add more questions than answers, building upon a unique mystery. But as you slowly accumulate the pieces and you think you have an idea of what's going on, you realize you have absolutely no idea what's going on because of the surprising twists. There is a lot of information being thrown at you, and an overwhelming amount of sci-fi references. And if you're like me and struggle to maintain every bit of knowledge, and not a sci-fi buff, there are mystery files and event archives to sift through and refresh yourself on the story thus far. My one critique of any media that has out-of-order storytelling is it gets a bit difficult to follow, and it can be jarring to be invested in one part only for it to be locked until you've completed some other objective. You can be locked out because you haven't seen other character events, completed battles, unlocked X amount of mystery files, or need X amount of character stories, X percentage complete. 13 Sentinels at its core is a step or two above a traditional point-and-click visual novel adventure. While its strength is heavily rooted in storytelling, nobody really talks about the action of 13 Sentinels. Most of your time will be going through character stories, replaying them several times, and making different choices, opening up different paths. You'll unlock new keywords in your thought cloud, presenting new dialogue and options. There are checkpoints within flowcharts, or, in case you mess up, the game instantly restarts the scene. When coming back to a story, you'll have keywords that a character can reflect on to help jog your memory. As characters uncover more truths about the keywords, their speculation dialogue might change. Repeat this cycle until you're locked out and move on to a different character, or perhaps take to the battlefield. I knew 13 Sentinels was a strategy RPG, but what came as a pleasant surprise is it's a tower defense game. The objective varies, but usually it's to defeat all the Kaiju or keep the terminal protected until the timer reaches 0. Now, as you unlock your characters, each can pilot a specific type of Sentinel. Gen 1 Sentinels focus on melee, and must use roads to move from one location to another. 2nd Gen Sentinels are all-rounder types, /supportive, great for laying down sentry guns, healing, and shields. Also ground-locked. 3rd Gen are your long-range types, attack foes from across the map, also ground-locked. 4th gen are flight support. They're all about air combat and don't need to use roads. Before entering battle, you'll pick a team of 6 and review Sentinel arms and upgrades. Arms are your skills that can be upgraded. Upgrading your Sentinel is upgrading direct stats, attack, defense, speed, etc. Both require meta chips. You can also enhance terminal skills. Right before battle, it's encouraged to look at bonus objectives to unlock more mystery points for mystery files. These usually make you use specific teammates, give a time limit, or reduce your team to 4. From there, you go in and the battle commences. Hordes of various kaiju head for the terminal. You're faced with ones that fly, that are armored, some reproduce mini kaiju, some that are living bombs that you can use against other kaiju. The key to a high score is not letting your terminal get hit or the Sentinels. Even if repaired, damage will still be counted against you. There isn't really an order of who can move first. After an action is taken, their bar will recharge, signaling they can be used again. There are various ways to tackle enemies. You go and straight up punch them, back attacks land more damage, there are skills that hit enemies in a straight line or have a large radius, some are long ranged, others are short, you can deploy sentries or anti-air fields, gravity bombs, pulling enemies into one location, you're armed with it all. Frankly, it just depends on your playstyle. You can see the range of all these attacks before committing, and enemies can do the same. You see their attack range and when the skill will go off, so be wary. Skills do require EP, or energy points. EP is replenished by defeating enemies, or you can refill it faster by defending. If the HP gauge is depleted, the pilot will be ejected as the Sentinel is repaired. If the pilot dies, it's game over. The meta gauge is your saving grace mechanism, by gathering meta chips from defeating enemies, allowing for terminal abilities like strengthening Sentinel attacks, doubling speed, shielding allies, etc. This is my 2nd tower defense game. My first? Plants vs. Zombies, baby! And this was a lot different from that. A lot busier, a lot more enemies at once, and on a 3D plane. Even so, it was pretty easy. My first D score came at the final level. Otherwise, it was mostly A's. I got a few C's here and there, but those were quickly rectified. If you want a semblance of challenge, I'd play on hard. Otherwise, if you're more interested in story, keep it on normal, or hell, even easy. It never challenged me so much where I had to switch up my skills, but I always had to be mindful of party composition. It was very clear that the story was the focus and the combat was never meant to offer a lot of pushback. Rather, a change of gameplay. After you claim victory, you'll gain experience and unlock pilot skills, unique to that pilot. Something you'll also realize is after using pilots, they'll go into brain overload, making them temporarily unplayable. I really enjoy that the pacing is in your hands. You could stop the story at any point in time and go do battles. There is one thing that universally everyone expects out of Vanillaware, and that is beauty. 13 Sentinels looks like a moving painting as you walk through these gorgeous hand-drawn environments and interact with other characters. Detail went into every character's walk, run, thought animation, which give more visual insight on the character's personality. While in thought, a haze dulled the background and a faint yellow highlight lit the character. The lighting in general was outstanding, and for a visual novel, the world felt so populated, with students in hallways, various people walking the streets of Tokyo, and on the flip side, it's great at making you feel isolated. There was never a moment where 13 Sentinels looked uninteresting. Also, got a comment on the text itself, easy to read font and size, you could even go back and reread chat logs if you missed something, and you can opt to hear the voice line again. 13 Sentinels is beauty and grace. However, the combat, visually overwhelming at first. There's a lot to keep track of, incoming enemies, incoming missiles, various types of enemies overlapping each other, loads of white circles, area of effect visuals. Over time, you get used to it, but at first it's super daunting. And it's such a stark contrast from the rest of the game that has a softer look rather than the bright neon colors. But I do like the harsh distinction. 13 Sentinels also boast an impressive cast of skilled voice actors, who do a great job bringing the story and its characters to life. Even its NPC dialogues are admirably delivered. Among the star-studded cast of 13 Sentinels is the late and great Billy Kometz, who you may know for his work voicing the likes of Josuke. Here, Mr. Kometz lends his talents to another pompadour-donning badass in his performance of Neji Ogata. And though Mr. Kometz is no longer with us, the contributions he's made to the works that we know and love will ensure his voice carries on.
You'd think that wouldn't get to me anymore, but hey, I'm still mad.
If I give you the impression that the voice acting would be all that tickles your ears, allow me to introduce you to the soundtrack. I am shocked. Hitoshi Sakamoto, the man who did Final Fantasy XII's mid-soundtrack, composed music for 13 Sentinels. My man's musical game came a long way because the OST was pretty nice. Oddly enough, I didn't appreciate it as much when I was playing the game versus when I went back and listened to some tracks solo. For me, the soundtrack felt very cozy, particularly when it was time for school, but there were moments when you found yourself in an unusual location and the plot was thickening. The music contributed to that mystery. When it came time for battle, the music sounded drastically different from the visual novel aspects. It took more of a synthwave pop approach with some orchestral influences. My favorite song has to be Halcyon Days. It takes after the song title. It feels very peaceful, relaxing, and every time I hear this song, it makes me feel good. What makes 13 Sentinels amazing is not only its tight storytelling and personable characters, but that every person who plays this game will have a unique experience uncovering truths earlier or later than someone else based on whose path they choose. While I do recommend it to those who enjoy deep, out-of-order storytelling and a sucker for sci-fi, I found it very big-brained, and a bit much for me to keep track of everything, plus sci-fi admittedly isn't my cup of tea. But there are sci-fi games I did fall head over heels for, and that is Parasite Eve. Click the top box for that review, and I also reviewed its sad sequel, Parasite Eve 2, if you want to check that out. And of course, be sure to join the Patreon. You get into the Discord, early access to videos, and postcards. Also, guess who started streaming again? Find my Twitch link in the description below. Something I'm trying is after a video goes live, I want to do a stream and talk about spoilers or things that I left out of the review. So I hope to see you in stream. I love your faces and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!